Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to discuss whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. We are here because God is concerned about that which concerns you. I want to say we are excited, as always, on the first Thursday of every month to have with us our monthly contributor, Rebecca Boova, who is a licensed and registered dietitian and nutritionist who is with us every first Thursday. And as you know, I've been announcing all week that she was going to be with us, so we are excited to have her here with us. Becca, thank you for joining us today as we prepare this broadcast, which is brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock. The water collects in a natural artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. And speaking of being delivered right to your front door, Becca is with us today. Rebecca Boova, licensed and registered dietitian and nutritionist. Becca, can you hear and are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Every first Thursday of the month, Becca is here with us, and we are delighted. I need to say, Becca, before you share with everyone your topic for today, I want to just take a moment to say to all of our listeners and viewers, I am really impressed by the volume of communications we receive after each broadcast that Becca is with us, and also the communications we continue to receive throughout the month that you want to discuss. So I am really impressed by the volume of communications, Becca. So thank you so much for sharing with our listeners and viewers. And would you share with them today the topic that you want to discuss today?
Sure, yeah. And again, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be able to share my knowledge with so many different people. So we're going to go ahead. This is November, so this is actually National Diabetes Month. And right now, about 1 in 10 Americans actually have diabetes. So probably, you might know someone with diabetes, whether it be a relative, a friend, a coworker, or maybe even yourself. So it's very prevalent in the United States, and even more so is actually pre-diabetes, which is kind of the phase before you actually develop diabetes. 1 in 3 adults have pre-diabetes. So, if that stage is something that can be reversible, so we want to do our best to not only prevent ourselves from getting to that stage, but prevent pre-diabetes from turning into diabetes. And then if you do have diabetes, you want to make sure we're following a healthy diet, taking your medications, checking your blood sugar, so that you can make sure that you are limiting any possible complications. So, and then for those that don't know, there's actually 3 different types of diabetes. There is type 1, which used to be referred to as child-onset diabetes, but which is now more referred to as insulin-dependent diabetes. And it's more common to get this whenever you're a child or a teenager or maybe a young adult, but it can come on at any time in your life, actually. And this is whenever your pancreas, which for a human person or for a healthy person would be releasing insulin to lower blood sugar naturally. A person with type 1 diabetes, for whatever reason, their pancreas no longer works to release insulin. So they have to get it from outside of their body through insulin injections. The next type of diabetes is type 2 diabetes, and this has also been referred to as adult onset, but more so now it is occurring in younger and younger people. So it's no longer adult onset diabetes. It's type 2 diabetes. You might have also heard of it as non-insulin dependent diabetes. But this is something that is very preventable, actually. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how it's preventable, hopefully today. But I just want everyone to know that there's a lot of things that you can do to lower your risk. And then there's a few things that you can't necessarily control, such as your family history, your age, but you can control your weight, your physical activity, your diet. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. And then the third type of diabetes is actually gestational diabetes, and this is the kind that you could develop during pregnancy, usually in your second or third trimester. And that is just whenever, you don't normally have diabetes, but whenever you're pregnant, your blood sugars go up. And this is something that, has risk factors that can be modified, some that can't. Weight, diet, those definitely have something to do with it, but sometimes you do have that family history that makes it, kind of inevitable. But we want to do as much as we can that's in our control to help that from happening.
So, Becca, I'm sitting here listening to all of this information that you're providing, and one of the things, you're so thorough, I'm going to have to wonder if my sponsors are going to need me any longer, because you're covering all the things I was going to ask you about. And it's very interesting, because from my understanding, diabetes, as you said, I wanted to hear about pre-diabetes, because that is something that can be reversed, and I'm glad you covered that. Diabetes requires being intentional, from what my understanding, regarding diet and regarding nutrition. And would you provide some suggestions on being intentional with our diet and our nutrition and exercise? Because I know you're an exercise buff also.
How to prevent it from happening, is that what you're asking about? Okay, sure, yeah. So definitely, there's a lot of things that we can do they're in our control to be able to prevent diabetes from happening or reverse pre-diabetes. So the first thing, follow a healthy diet. So I preach this every month. We want to be choosing healthy, lean proteins, our healthy fats, so our unsaturated fats instead of our saturated fats, and then also healthy carbohydrates. So ideally, half of our whole grain intake every day should be whole grains. So that's things like brown rice, wheat bread, etc. And then we want to make sure we're eating lots of fruits and vegetables in our diet as well. Minimally processed foods. In addition to diet, we want to make sure we're exercising. So getting physical activity every week, whether it be moderate physical activity or vigorous exercise. Even if you're just incorporating some extra walking into your week, or if you belong to a gym and you go and you lift weights and you do cardio, that's a great way to exercise. And then along with those two things, you can actually lose weight. So weight loss, even a very small amount of weight loss, can actually really reduce your risks, or even your need for medications if you already have diabetes. So that's a really important thing to aim for, is weight loss. If you're a smoker, you should definitely stop smoking, not only for diabetes risk, but for your heart health. And then we also want to make sure we're limiting alcohol intake and not going overboard with that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I meant when I made reference to being intentional. I think we really have to be intentional about our diet and exercise. I know Becca and I were talking right before going on the air, and she was saying today one of the things she's going to do is play tennis. So it's just things that you can do, whether it's walk or whether it's, if you're a runner like myself, I enjoy getting out and getting a run in. You can find things to do that actually don't cost a lot of money to do them. It's just a matter of getting out and enjoying some form of exercise. But we have to be very intentional with our diets. And so, Becca, I'm going to ask, one of our listeners and viewers also asked this question, understanding that we will return to some semblance of normalcy soon at some point. And she wanted to know, how should you handle eating at social events when we return to our normal daily life?
How should we handle eating at social events? Is that what you said?
Because of the temptations I got from her communications, that when you go out to social events, there's always the snacks that are not so good for you. There are foods that are not necessarily the best for you, and then of course, as you said, there's alcohol, which you should eliminate or certainly reduce alcohol alcohol consumption or just eliminate it from our health and wellness. But how can you, and this kind of goes back to being more intentional, how can you really handle eating properly at social events?
That is a great question and very timely as the holidays are coming up, although most people won't be doing the same types of gatherings that they do in years past.
Yes.
You know, there's still a chance that people might be getting together in very small groups, hopefully with members of your household or members that you know are isolating equally as well.
Yes.
But so I'll start off by saying appetizers are usually one of the things that kind of gets us immediately, because there are lots of little yummy foods that you like to snack on before dinner, and they tend to fill you up, and they tend to also not be the healthiest things. So if you want to have appetizers, maybe try having a vegetable tray or some, like a little bit of fruit, something healthy to at least balance out the unhealthy foods that you could have as well. Another thing I like to say is if you don't start, you don't have to stop. So, you know, if you know dinner's coming and you can hold off, maybe just don't even start eating the appetizers, because you won't have to stop yourself then.
That's a good philosophy. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and then as far as dinners go and entrees, if you're eating out, we want to make more healthful choices. So choosing things that are less fried, less processed, more baked, grilled, things like that, and make sure you're getting plenty of vegetables on your plate as well. If it's at home and you have control over the menu, then again, make sure there are plenty of vegetables, healthy foods. Cut back on the gravies, the butters, the salt, things like that. You know, you can use the healthy plate portion sizes to kind of control what you put on the table to serve for dinner as well. So we like to say that half of your plate should be filled with non-starchy vegetables, a quarter carbs or starch, and then a quarter of protein. So use the same idea for what you're putting on the table so that people can easily control what's going to go onto their plate.
You know, I thought this was a very interesting question because it goes back to being intentional again, and you are giving us some very good methods to really prevent us from eating at social events that won't benefit our health and wellness. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the question from our listener and viewer. I do have to do a little global business here. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you can call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you over into our queue so that you can experience T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill. And if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a monthly discount on your T-Mobile bill at T-Mobile, America's largest nationwide 5G provider at no extra charge. So I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers, and I'm going to ask Becca this question. Rebecca Boova, who is with us, our monthly contributor, who is a licensed and registered dietitian and nutritionist, and I know how you all have been so excited about her being a contributor on the broadcast. I'm excited also because this gives me tips also, just as it does you. But one of our listeners and viewers had a question: what should you be looking for on nutritional facts on labels?
That is an awesome question, and you know, it's going to depend on a few different things. So in general, we always want to look at the serving size, because sometimes, especially if there's more than one serving per container, the serving size itself is going to be, you know, is going to depend on, or is going to make the numbers on the label be what they are. So if you're eating more than one serving, you're going to have to take that into consideration with those numbers and make sure that if you're eating 2 servings of whatever it is, you multiply everything by 2, or if you're eating 3 servings, you multiply everything by 3. So serving size, super, super important, along with the servings per container. Calories is always going to be important for weight maintenance, to make sure we're getting enough, or not getting too many calories. Whenever it comes to diabetes, we definitely want to be looking at the total fats, the saturated fats, the trans fats, the sodium, and then the total carbohydrates. And in the total carbohydrates section, you will see usually dietary fiber and added sugars. So we want to be choosing carbs that are higher in fiber and lower in added sugars, because added sugars are something that really just doesn't do anything good for our bodies. A little bit here and there is okay, but we don't want to be going overboard by any means, because, again, sugar is not something that is our friend. So the recommendation actually for added sugar is about 26 teaspoons per day. We don't want to exceed that at all. So total carbohydrates definitely, and then everything in that section for the diabetics, and then all the above mentioned things as well about the fats and the saturated fat, trans fat, sodium. That's also going to be really important for your heart health. And then it's also a good idea to take a look at the daily values at the bottom of the nutrition facts label, because there's things like vitamin D and potassium on here, and the nutrients that are listed down there actually were identified as the nutrients of concern for Americans. So this means that basically it was found that the average American diet was not adequate in those nutrients. So definitely pay attention to those and make sure you're getting, 100% of the recommended daily intake of those as well.
So, that's very interesting that there are certain things that we need to break out when we are looking at labels. You can't just, and this was the math segment of the broadcast today. So you have to make certain that you're multiplying your servings so that you know exactly what your caloric intake is, what your nutritional intake is. So that's very interesting, a very important point. And I think everyone, hopefully you got your New Life journals, and hopefully you are writing some of this down. Of course, you can go back and view every broadcast, because our broadcasts are archived for 365 days. And now that we are YouTube live, they are actually archived forevermore. So you'll be able to go back and listen to Rebecca, but hopefully you're jotting down notes as we go along, because I was hoping Becca was going to say that the sugar intake for the day is that chocolate chip cookie that we so love every day. But what we have to do is make certain that we're monitoring our sugar intake for our health and wellness. And Becca, I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers, who indicated, are there any benefits to taking multivitamins? Are there any real benefits to taking multivitamins? Because, I've encouraged people on the broadcast previously to take a multivitamin, and someone asked the question, are there really any benefits, and what are those benefits to taking multivitamins?
So the first benefit is if you're not getting enough of those different vitamins and minerals in your diet, the multivitamin is going to cover your bases for, to make up the difference of anything you're not getting. So the average American tends to eat what is called the Western diet. So it's very high in meats and proteins and pretty low on fruits and vegetables, unfortunately. And the fruits and vegetables are going to be where you get a lot of the different nutrients that you need. So if you're not like a huge fruit or veggie fan, or you're a picky eater, or if your child's a picky eater, a multivitamin is always a good way to just have an insurance policy to make sure you're getting all those different nutrients that you need, especially for children who are still growing and developing. It's so important to make sure they're getting everything that they need, but for adults too. As far as specific supplements go, it's not always a great idea to do something like maybe an iron supplement, unless your doctor instructs you to, because you are deficient. But if you're not deficient and you're just trying to increase your energy levels or increase your focus, really the best thing to do is follow a healthy diet, get plenty of fluids, get plenty of sleep. But a multivitamin is never a bad idea, unless you're instructed by your physician otherwise, of course. Got
it. And that's actually my thought process has always been, if you are taking a multivitamin, it's going to, obviously we know they're good for children, but as an adult, if you take a multivitamin, you're not going to miss out on some of the things that you might be missing out in your diet. I will confess that I'm not a big vegetable guy, but there are certain vegetables that I do enjoy, so I eat those vegetables continuously, whereas other people might have a larger variety of vegetables. And the same thing with fruit. There are certain fruits that I enjoy, and there are fruits that I'm not a fan of, but we all have our own taste that we enjoy. And what we're doing here is making certain that everyone is getting information that they can possibly do to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. And I know in that communication also, our listener and viewer also asked the question, it was a kind of a combination in that, and that was, how important is it to take vitamins with food?
To take with food?
Yes.
So it's actually definitely recommended to take your multivitamin with food. Food is always going to be the best source of vitamins and minerals, of course, but if you can't get it from the food, then get it from the multivitamin, and at least pair the multivitamin with food, because it actually enhances the way that our body digests and absorbs and metabolizes those nutrients. So you definitely want to make sure that you are taking your vitamins with food so that you can get the very most out of them.
Now, I'm going to tell you why I thought that was so profound also in this question, because I'm someone, I'm going to just share because it's good to be open. I have to take mine the first thing in the morning when I'm doing my morning hygiene. And the reason is because if I don't take them, my day gets so busy I forget. And
it's definitely easy to forget.
So I was interested to hear your response about that because you're the expert. And so I wanted to hear your response. I guess I have to find another method to remember to take it with food. And then in addition to that, my meal times are so sporadic. So I guess I'm going to ask a personal question, and I know I have you on speed dial, so I could ask this off the air, but I want others to hear this also. Because my meal time is so sporadic, what am I missing by changing the times every day that I eat? Is it better to eat at specific times, or is it fine to eat at different times throughout the day?
So if you have a hectic schedule and you're busy and you can only eat it whenever you get the chance, making any time for your meals is going to be important. So if it's not possible to stick to a regular meal pattern, you just got to fit it into your schedule when you can. But if you do have a little bit of flexibility, it is going to be better to be consistent with your meal intake. That way we're not loading up and not eating for several hours, or not eating for, having, just a different meal pattern basically. But it's actually going to be better for your metabolism to have regularly spaced out meals rather than eating at different times, and sometimes morning, sometimes not, So it's definitely best to be, consistent and spread it out to regular meals as much as possible.
So we're going to talk about that metabolism question that one of our listeners and viewers had in a moment. I do have to do a little bit of global business, but I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, even though I have Becca on speed dial, I know there's got to be someone else out there like me, like myself, who has as Becca said, a meal pattern that is not consistent. So this is something we're going to have to work on to improve our metabolism and so forth. So Becca, thank you for sharing that. I need to say this segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. If you're in any of those areas, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything that a man could possibly need. They have shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. Everything I have on today is Charles Tyrwhitt. And if you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And The White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have a store on 5th Avenue in New York. If you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. They have everything that you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. If you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. With us today, as always, the first Thursday of the month, our 3D contributor, Rebecca Boova, licensed and registered dietitian and nutritionist. So Becca, could you talk a little bit more about metabolism? Because one of our listeners and viewers indicated that she is working out daily, she does not lose weight, and she doesn't understand why. So could you address that a little bit and talk about metabolism for us?
Of course. So everybody has metabolism. We all have a what's called a resting energy expenditure. So that is the amount of energy that it takes for your body to just run, so simply be alive. So that is your breathing, your thinking, for your organs to work. That's, the base amount. So we can increase our metabolism by putting more physical activity into our days or increasing our muscle mass. So if you're losing weight and you've lost a good amount of weight and you find that you plateau, or if you're just having difficulty losing weight in the first place and you've cut back on calories but you're still not getting anywhere, a great thing to do is to start weight-bearing exercise. Not only is it good for your bones and making you stronger, but it's also really good for your metabolism. And something I hear a lot from women especially is that they don't want to be bulky, but actually, women aren't designed to be bulky, so it's very unusual for a woman to get, big and muscular unless they're really trying.
Yes.
So just incorporate some weights, lift some arm weights, some leg weights are great. If you don't have weights, I know they've been extremely hard to come by during the pandemic, do body weight exercises. Anything that you can do to increase your muscle mass will help increase your metabolism.
Excellent, excellent. So, this is real important because one of the things, if you don't belong to a gym or if you haven't felt comfortable returning to the gym as of yet, weights at home are a winner. Okay, that's the first thing. But Becca made a very good point. Right now, it has been virtually, I'll just say this, it's been difficult to find weights because people are working out at home more because we've been sheltered in place, we've been going through that whole process. But just doing push-ups at home or doing sit-ups or anything that you can do to increase the body resistance weight is going to help. And I will say this, that during the pandemic, I have been working out more now than I do even normally when I'm going to the gym. And the reason is because going to the gym, I would go maybe every other day, whereas working out at home, I'm doing 6 days a week. And so we want to make certain that we all don't gain that COVID-19 pounds. So we want to make sure that we keep our weight down, and I know we're all, it's possible that we're all gaining a few pounds here or there, and the holidays are about to come, but increasing the metabolism is going to be a good way of reducing our weight, increasing our health and wellness, and that's what this is all about. That's why Rebecca Boova, our 3D contributor, who is a licensed, registered dietitian and nutritionist, is here with us the first Thursday of every month to ensure that we are well in our body, mind, and spirit, that we keep our health and wellness before us so that we have a real understanding of what we can do to improve and become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. So I did receive a communication from a gentleman who also indicated that he struggles with, as much as he works out, he struggles with maintaining his weight. And Becca, you have given us a lot of suggestions about maintaining, reducing weight and maintaining weight. Is there, and I have to say this, you are in impeccable physical condition. So if you would share with our listeners and viewers what some of your best practices and what else we can all do to improve our health and wellness.
Okay. So, I will say this is a pretty widely known statement in the health and wellness community, but weight loss starts in the kitchen. So you can work out, you can do as much cardio, you can lift as many weights as you want, but in order to get those really great results for weight loss, you have to make sure your diet is following, your weight loss regimen. So we want to make sure we're getting enough, but also not getting too much of the nutrition that our bodies need. I try and follow a healthy diet on a regular basis. I'm not going to lie to you, I indulge myself pretty frequently during the week, but I make sure to make up for that in my workouts, in my meals. I'm a sugar fanatic, so I'm always finding little treats here and there, but I always make sure to balance it out with healthy lunches, healthy dinners, and exercise, of course.
Well, that is an excellent method for us all to follow. And as Becca shared with us last month, there are things that we can do throughout the week to make certain we don't have to eat as much meat every day. We can eat vegetables 1 day a week or 2 days a week. We don't have to be on a specific dietary regimen to remain healthy and well. And so Becca's going to be sharing another